Everyday Life with Guardsmares, Chapter 16. Honor Bound's point of view. Honor barely had time to get back onto her hooves before Duck came around for another pass. Again, he charged straight at her, hooves held out in front of him. Turning to face her enemy, Honor hunched her body down to present the smallest target while staying ready on her hooves. And Duck was coming in fast. At the last second, she dove to the side once again, and rolled out of the way of the attack. Her shoulder connected with the hard-packed earth and mixed gravel of the road. One thing was for sure, Honor Bound was not gonna look like a pristine Canterlot VIP bodyguard when this was over.
Come on, get her, Duck!
Yeah, any quick, Duckio! Over by the bridge, the rest of Killfeather's squad had started to cheer on their nearest champion. Said champion immediately took a break from making charging passes of Bound to acknowledge the crowd. No, come on! First I gotta warm her up, guys! It was a welcome breather for Honor. She took a few steps towards the left side of the road, taking a glance over the ditch. It had a nice soft shoulder down under some mixed tall grasses, which rose up again into a fresh field of alfalfa sprouts.
That'll do perfectly.
Heads up, Foxy Philly! This time Duck came at her from the middle of a 90-degree bank turn, his belly towards her so as to kick out with all four of his hooves. Since his lower wing needed room to extend, he'd come in from too high up, and she didn't have too much more to do than crouch down to avoid his attack. Oh yeah, get down in the dirt, you filthy nag! That sent the bridge guards into another bout of laughter.
Oh hey Duck, you big stud, you better take that mare before she gets too dusted up.
Oh no, Rainer, Dusty likes him down and dirty. Honor's opponent had begun to climb up into the air for what was probably going to be a power dive down. It was still not what she needed him to do. Kicking over, Duck completed his loop and came hurtling down at her as if a pendulum in full swing. But another tricky last-minute roll into the hard-packed earth cleared her from his way. Undeterred, Duck climbed once again for another looped pass. Honor's eyes narrowed.
Come on, you jerk. Get down and rush me on my level.
Watching the Pegasus climb into the morning sky, she wondered how things were going for her two comrades. Lily Glamour-Spear's point of view.
Get some, get some, get some! Holy moly, shooting at your abusive ex-girlfriend ever cathartic.
It would have been better if he would just come down enough for a solid hit, but things were pretty good already. Glamour Spear was just taking potshots at Val while she cantered around in the fallow field east of the road, trying to find the perfect vantage point on the rolling hills. It was somewhere with a nice commanding view of the area, with no nearby bushes or trees to interfere with her line of sight or her line of fire. Icepone was way up in the sky already, and he was a receding target. When Glamour Spear saw him start to climb, she'd shot off her shield and started conjuring magical spear tips, sending the constructs hurtling towards him in bursts of 3. As her ex receded from view, she'd stopped firing and brought her shield back up with a personal radius at a moderate strength. She couldn't let him get the drop on her while she was still setting up after all, and she couldn't waste all of her energy on shielding. She wouldn't win anything that way. Unfortunately, there didn't seem to be a perfect spot in the area. Everything was either too close to thick cover or on the downward slope of one of the larger terrain features. She'd have to settle for staying in the middle of the open field, relocating as necessary to obtain a good shot. Speaking of good shots, Glamour Spear gave a quick double tap on the side of her helmet to extend their high magnification sunglass shades.
Now where's the damn spotter with the targeting info? Oh. Right.
She wasn't part of a battery this time, so she was gonna have to reacquire her own quarry. There were quite a few clouds in the sky, which was both good and bad. Good because the sun would occasionally be shaded, making it easier to look up. But bad because that gave Val something to hide behind and circle around with. Her shield wasn't helping either, as the translucent dome was giving everything a purple tint. Double tapping on her helmet a few more times, she cycled through the filter modes, trying them all to find an appropriate one.
Ugh, this is the worst part of the job. Where'd that bastard get to?
Suddenly, there was a crackling noise behind her, and Lily could feel the shield shudder as something crashed into it. Except it's not something, it's some pony.
Heads up, Centurion!
Val had somehow managed to sneak up on her, ramming his hoof straight into her shield bubble.
As if that's gonna do anything.
He gave one final swipe at her protective field with an armored forehoof.
Accurate!
With that, he shot up into the sky again. Lily dropped her shield and prepared to fire. But that bastard was heading straight for the sun, barrel rolling as he went. The best she could do was just squint and send a few more barely aimed spears his way. If he was gonna keep using that trick, she'd better keep her helmet in magnified darkest tint mode. And there was no sense in staying in one place, where he'd know exactly where she was all the time. With a quick double check that he was still climbing, she quickly galloped across the field, setting herself up against a large thicket. Once her back was up against it, she brought her shield up once more. Maybe a little cover would help her out after all.
I spy with my little eye something that starts with Lil.
Searching the sky, Lily could hear him, but she couldn't see him.
Loser!
Suddenly, Val popped out from around the bush, crashing his hooves into her shield once more as he flew by at a tremendous speed.
Damn it!
She actually felt the impact that time. He must really have been going fast before he'd struck. This time he didn't climb up, but instead turned to her right, following the terrain. Instantly she lowered her shield with another electric crack, sending a dozen more telekinetic spear shots his way. But firing a full flank, her shots only managed to blast small craters into the surrounding hills or punch at empty sky, winking out of existence 100 meters past her target, all of which missed.
Damn it.
The magnified optics were too zoomed in for her to draw a steady bead on the bastard. She'd better switch back to just unmagnified, tinted as soon as the volley was done. Val cut through one of the dividing rows of poplar trees, passing beyond her sight once more.
Alright, better bring your shield back up. And relocate again. Damn it.
As Lily scurried to her next sniping post to await Val's next move, her thoughts turned to her companions. Hopefully Sparkshower was doing okay. Sending her up against Icepone's wing pony? Talk about a trial by fire. Or by ice, she supposed. Artemis Sparkshower's point of view. Right then, all Sparkshower could think of was the sound of her own breathing. Visor down, legs clenched tight up against her body, spear held close. She had just one target. The cloud cover.
Here, Philly.
Joker crashed his hoofs into her flank armor once again, and it was all she could do not to shriek out in terror. She was rattled around inside her plate, but a second later he was gone again, zooming off to her other side.
Just gotta keep flapping and head up.
Once she got to the clouds, he'd have trouble finding her, and she could relax a bit.
Any pony home in that tin can?
Another loud metallic clank against her side plate, and she could feel the wind pull underneath her wings as Joker not only struck her armor, but pushed her down with his legs.
If you're not gonna answer, then maybe I should just keep knocking. What do you say, huh?
He kicked again, and she could feel him laying his forehoofs on her shoulders.
No, that's not good at all.
Rolling over onto her back, she lashed out with two of her own hooves, only to catch nothing but air as he extended his wings and used them as air brakes to fall back behind her.
Oh, so there is some pony home after all. Oh, well, hidey-ho, neighbor.
Sparkshower rolled back upright and continued heading towards what she hoped would be her safety zone.
Halfway there now. Oh, get your head out of the clouds, little filly.
This time, Joker didn't attack her flank, but came crashing down straight onto her back, setting her wings upright as the air went whistling by. She dared to glance down and saw the ground getting closer with horrifying speed. He had his hooves on her backplate and was just pushing her straight down.
You've gotta do something.
For a few seconds, all she could do was breathe. Then she remembered that she had a spear. Kicking its length forward with her hind legs so she was holding it firmly in her forehooves, she once again rolled it over to strike her tormentor. This time, just air braking wasn't enough, as the extra reach for Artemis' spear caught the purple Pegasus's green-colored tail, slicing a healthy chunk of it clean off.
Whoa, close shave.
Joker hovered in place and twisted his head to watch his missing lengths of his hair flutter their way down to the ground. Bringing the spear back under her control, Artemis completed the roll and resumed her upward course.
Oh well, I needed a haircut anyways.
She couldn't let him get a drop on her like that again. As much as she wanted to head straight to the clouds, ignoring everything around her, she couldn't. He could outclimb and outturn her, and he could even overpower her own wings if he put his mind to it. Artemis had to keep her wits and use her spear to keep him from taking advantage of her too much. Although they were terrifying, his initial boom and zoom hoof slashes didn't much alter her course or hurt her. It was when he thought that she wouldn't hit back at all that he started to get some real work in, so she needed to make him think that he couldn't get away with that. But if she was going to be swinging her spear as a preventative measure, she was going to need to be able to see him. And that meant coming out of her safe shell and raising her visor. It was a scary thought, but upon reflection, he couldn't get at her face without seeing him anyway, and she could always snap it back down again. With some trepidation, she reached a hoof up and quickly moved it out of the way, and then she turned her head to look behind her. Joker was hot on her tail, and he grinned when he saw her face.
Oh, hi there, neighbor. Dropped the veil, didn't ya? Ooh, lucky me, lucky.
Should she make another sweep with her spear? He seemed to be keeping his distance for now, and she didn't have the agility to swing while still climbing. Better to just stay the course for now, but she'd keep her eye on him. What she'd had so far was just a warm-up. Hopefully Glamour, Spear, and Honor could win their fight so this battle wouldn't even matter. Honor Bound's point of view. Corporal Honor Bound was covered in dust, with 2 aching shoulders, and her legs were starting to get a bit tired too.
Oh, jeez, this is like watching Mer's mud wrestling.
Yeah, except there's just one, and boy, she is really getting into it.
Does anybody else have a heart on?
Don't tease me, Applewood. The laughing squad over at the bridge was still enjoying the show, but as she got to her hooves once more, all Honor cared about right then and there was getting Duck to make just the right pass at her. He had to be getting tired of those high climbing loops by now. He should be at least getting dizzy. Oh, I'm starting to feel a little high and dry from all this nothing I'm getting. You keep blue-balling me down there, Foxy Philly.
Oh, thanks, Celestia.
So, how about we try something fresh for a change? Sweeping into a bank descent, Duck came down to skim the ground, circling around wide to size her up.
Come at me across the road, you big idiot, come on.
How about some alfalfa to go with all that gravel you've been eating?
Oh, finally.
With Honor on the west side of the road up against the embankment and the ditch, Duck came charging at her from across the eastern field. He must have been roiled. His approach, though fast, was careless. He even had his hind legs kicked out from behind him rather than tucked up under his body. This was it. She wasn't going to get a better shot at him than this. Smash her right into that mud, Duck!
Yeah, come on, get her in the ditch!
The cheers only steadied his aim right at her. Once again, she turned to face him head-on, but this time she was crouched down as low as possible onto her forehooves. She could see him adjust even further down so that he'd be level with the road when he struck. In the blink of an eye, he was almost on her, and Honor sprung her trap. Shoving with her forelegs, she flipped herself into the air and over onto her back. As her butt connected with the edge of the road and she started to roll backwards down the embankment, she could feel his approach carried on the wind before him. That's when she kicked out with her hind legs as hard as she could, her hips still just barely resting on the elevated roadway. Just as his head peeked over the edge of the road at her, she felt her hind legs connect with his lower torso. She pushed in as deep as possible into what felt like soft flesh, not hard ribs, nor the hard armor that would have been normally there had he not taken it off as part of the challenge. The transferred momentum from his charge sent her careening down into the wet ditch with a cold splash. Dizzied and with a few bull rushes blocking her view, all she could do was pray to Celestia that she'd got him. Luckily, the bridge chorus clued her in almost immediately. Ooh! Oh, Buck, man!
Holy mother of Faust!
Oh, Dom! Struggling to get to her hooves, she saw that they all, save one, had one hoof up to their mouths in shock. The last was clutching his own groin in sympathy. Tearing her gaze from them, Honor turned around. Duck was lying on his side among the alfalfa plants, moaning loudly and clutching his privates with both forehooves. Oh, my balls! Oh, my balls, Buck! Oh! Honor took a deep breath to settle herself, then walked over to the injured Pegasus. He was actually crying. It looked like she nearly blew right through the protective field. His coat still looked a little electrified, though. Between tears, he groaned in pain, his eyes held tightly shut. Oh, fucking crazy, she shot me! Damn beast had Tartarus! Reaching down, she forcibly turned him over his back, exposing his belly and face, and raised one hoof high into the air.
Hey!
At the sound of her voice, he opened his eyes, and she swept down at his right temple.
Duck!
He didn't even have time to blink. The instant she connected, his lights were out cold. There was a crackle in the air, and Honor felt the totem's protective field drop around her. Over at the bridge, Killfeather's goons were shaking their heads in disbelief, muttering among themselves. Honorbound just went straight over to her armor and started to put it back on. Standing just where he'd been when the fight started, Anonymous tipped his hat to her, a sly smile on his face. Nicely done, Corporal.
Thank you, sir.
Turning, he faced the fallow field to the east, where Glamour Spear just fired off another noisy barrage that failed to connect. Now, let's see if we can make it too. Did anybody else think that when Duck said something about blue balling, it was gonna lead up to something? Because that kick in the nuts, cherry on top. Now let's get off of cherries and let's get on to our Sweet Apple donators. Top donators: TacoCat598, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, Darkside, Gauntlet, and Only One Thing. Zar630, Strix, Raiden, Narwhals, Black Moonheart, Drake Lovedragon, Pastel Skies, Dospo, Madman Stan, Delta Omega, Jack Hadge, RuneScythe9852, Hunter Norman, Dash of Evergreen, Rhyny Dragonwolf, Ponyman, Tal Rasha, The Toilet Snake, Sword Brother and Mordred, Ronin Wandering, Random Person Man Guy, Easy, Skyuchia, Leslie Burkett, Jordan Peterson, Crimson Kitsune 9, Lightskin, Monster Kitty, Tim Bob, Needs a Life, and many more tough donators. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and live life to the fullest.